A report out this morning ranks the world's top political risks and their potential impact. Number 5 on the Eurasia Group's annual list is the U.S. at home because of investigations into President Trump and the possibility of a, quote, constitutional crisis. Number 4 is European populism, covering Brexit, nationalism, and the impact on the European Union. Cyber gloves off is number 3, highlighting the increasing threat of cyber attacks. Number 2, the eroding relationship between the United States and China. And the number 1 risk is something called bad seeds, or the dangers of weakening political institutions and global relationships. Ian Bremmer, president of the Eurasia Group, is also a CBS News senior global affairs contributor. Ian, good morning.
Good to be with you.
Boy, this is a cheery list. Let's start with bad seeds. Explain exactly what bad seeds are.
Think of it as geopolitical climate change. It's pretty much everything that we monitor geopolitically that matters in the world is presently heading in a negative direction. It's been 21 years since I started the firm. That's never been true before. Both domestically, the erosion of institutions, the weakness of leaders in the United States, across Europe and the United Kingdom, and also all the major relationships in the world, transatlantic, U.S.-Russia, U.S.-China, as well as within the Middle East, they're all becoming less sustainable. And when we usually have crises like after 9/11, the U.S. came together, the world came together to support the United States, even the Russians did. After the 2008 financial crisis, the world came together to dig out of a major recession. If the next crisis we have, whether it's cyber or terrorism or most likely the next economic slowdown, the world is so much less resilient in its ability to respond, and these bad seeds are really undermining that.
Why is the world less resilient?
It's less resilient because you no longer have the willingness of the countries to come together. The populism, the nationalism, for example, makes it so much harder. You're going to go into blamesmanship. Also, the nature of the relationship within Europe. Europeans aren't coming together. It's every nation for itself. The Americans much more likely to blame the Chinese and vice versa, not say, how do we work together to resolve this kind of issue?
The word risk is normally not a good thing, but there you are, number 5 with the United States from the domestic point of view, making the list. Why?
For the first time, a U.S. domestic risk is there. And keep in mind, the U.S. is the most powerful country in the world, so it's not number 1, number 2. Being number 5 means we don't think it's going to happen. But the fact is, this is the year the investigations are coming down against Trump, against his family, and against his business. And we know what Trump does when you threaten him and the things he really cares about. He hits back. Yeah. And his willingness to go after the people that are threatening him and his interests and use the powers of the presidency in ways that perhaps go beyond the guardrails of what is considered legal and normal, going to the Supreme Court, becoming a constitutional crisis. I certainly believe that our court system is strong enough to bat Trump down if and when that occurs the way it has over the last 2 years. But you can't guarantee it, and so it has to be on the list.
Let's get your take on some of the big headlines for today. The president's national security advisor talking about, no, we're not going to pull troops out of Syria until we get an agreement by the Turks not to attack the Kurds.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's keep in mind that the U.S. has 2,000 special forces on the ground. It's very different than what you have in Afghanistan, over 10,000 American enlisted men and women. Also, the Russians, the Turks, the Iranians, they're the ones that have determined the outcomes politically and militarily in Syria, not the United States. We will lose intelligence gathering capabilities, understanding radicalism in Syria and in the region, Hezbollah and the rest. You take the 2,000 troops out. That's why, for example, the Secretary of State has strongly opposed this withdrawal. There's also the Israel issue. Netanyahu, elections coming up. He's really not happy with the idea that his buddy Trump is suddenly undermining him in his backyard. So I do suspect that pushback means that the timing is going to get muddied even more.
All right. Ian Bremmer, always nice to have you at the table.
Great to be with you guys.
Beginning of the year. Thanks.